Hello folks, welcome to this first video in the nerdy fun playlist. This is where I get to indulge my geeky love of trying to find kind of innovative ways to solve problems, specifically in Unit 4 ERP. And in this video, there is an issue that always comes up whenever we look at desktop to web enablement, but it exists in ERPX as well. So if I log into the screen here, now if I go to accounting, then in the registration of incoming invoices and posting of incoming invoices screens, there is an issue that AP staff rightly always comment on. And that is the fact that this invoice area on the right hand side, let me just choose a posting cycle, the invoice area scrolls with the screen. So when you go for documents for registration and you choose an invoice to view, it's all very well when you're at the top of the screen and you can zoom in and out and have a look at that invoice. It all kind of zooms separately. But as soon as you start to fill in fields down the bottom, the invoice scrolls up to the top, which is not ideal at all. So the workaround I used to use for this is to have a Chrome extension. There is an extension called, where is it? Open Frame. That will allow me to right click and say Open Frame in this tab, next tab, new window. And so you can kind of essentially export that PDF into a different tab that you can then have side by side. But it's a bit of a faff. You need to have that Chrome extension installed. You wouldn't necessarily trust what it was doing. And it's better to have, if possible, the invoice in the screen. Which led me to thinking, surely this is just a frame within within the screen. If we could make this particular frame stick in place, so separate it out from scrolling with the whole kind of container of the screen, then you could scroll up and down and this would basically be kind of stuck on the edge and it would stay where it is. And ideally you'd be able to kind of turn that off and on. And finally, it would work in both registration of incoming invoices and posting of incoming invoices. So that was the challenge. And so the result of that is an extension called Unit 4 Invoice Pin. So in Visual Code, it's a very simple extension. So we have this manifest code, which gives the information that appears when you add the extension, what the actual extension does, the version and so on. You can see the host permissions and below you've got the matches. It's just a completely open URL, so it should work with any environment, and the rest of it is just which icons are going to appear for that extension. Importantly, down the bottom here, all frames true. This indicates that it's going to look at all the frames in your Unit 4 screen. In other words, it's going to look at all the different names of those frames. And what we have here, if I could press F12 to go into kind of developer mode, let's just scroll across. If I click on this little element finder, hover over here, so this element right there, click on that. You can see over here it says the ID is BS262 and so on, S border 72. This code is the same code used in the posting of incoming invoices. And so if we can say that if a screen has that code, and only those two screens, as far as I'm aware, have those codes, then enact the extension and make this section, so everything within this section that encompasses everything inside of there, make it essentially stick to the right hand side of the screen. That's what that code does. You've also got the actual content, the thing that makes it happen. This is what tells the settings. So if it finds the panel that is that code that we just saw, then do this, make the panel have this style, position, etc. So this is what pins it to the side. Once you disable the panel, in other words, turn the extension off, as we'll see, it will set it back to however it was before. The pop-up HTML, that gives you the little pop-up at the top, so that's where you can actually turn it off and on. You can enable it or disable it via a checkbox. And finally, the JS is the connection between the pop-up and the actual content, making it do its thing. So it's a really simple extension. All of this exists in a folder. So unit 4 invoice pin. And to activate this, then all we need to do is go up to extensions, click on manage extensions. Now this might be the bit that needs to be done by IT if it's a customer environment, but essentially you need to be able to load an unpacked extension, not one from a store, just one from a folder. So you need to have developer mode, or someone in IT needs to do this and kind of install it for everybody. So developer mode on, I've got the option to load unpacked. If I then go, there we go, I'm already there, to my extensions, unit 4 invoice pin, so this is the folder that contains those files. Click on select folder. That is now there. If I go back to my registration of incoming invoices screen, I'll just pin that to the top. There it is, so that I can see it in my view. And now if I select that and enable it, and in fact, I need to just refresh the screen first because obviously I've only just enabled it. So let me just close that registration screen. There we go. And you can now see that that invoice image stays on the right hand side and doesn't move. Let me just choose an invoice to show you, select rows. There we go. And no matter where I am, let's zoom out slightly. That invoice image will always be there. I can still do the relevant zooming and zooming out and zooming in, but it will always be there on the right hand side. I can turn that off if I want to, and it goes back to being a normal zoom, or I can switch it back on, and again, it sticks it to the right hand side. If it's selected on, it will do exactly the same thing when I'm in posting. You can see it sticking there. So there we go. That solves that issue with a really simple extension. And the lovely thing is, because it is URL agnostic, if I go into my colleagues unit 4 ERP7 environment and go to the same screen, you'll see that it works just as well in this screen in his environment as well. So it doesn't mind what environment it is. There you go, it's zoomed out slightly. And again, I can turn it off if I need to, and it's pinned in place. The other lovely thing is, because ERPX is essentially built on the same web base code as ERP7, that if I go to the ERPX environment and go to registration of incoming invoices, the code for that image section is exactly the same. Therefore, you can see here, it's going to do exactly the same thing. Again, let me just go and choose an invoice. Oops. There we go. And that is also going to stay in place as I am moving up and down the form, unless I, of course, switch it off. Finally, the last thing to think about is, well, what if I don't use Chrome? What if I use Edge? Well, the good story there is it's exactly the same. The code is also, well, Edge is built on Chromium, which Chrome also uses. So it's essentially Edge uses the same kind of code as Chrome does. And so if I log into Edge and go to the same screen, we're going to see that it does exactly the same thing. So if I go to registration of incoming invoices, again, I need to actually, before I do that, I need to install the extension. So I'm going to go up to extensions, manage. I've already got developer mode on. So I've got the option to load unpacked. There it is, select folder, it's there. I can then pin that the same way I did in Chrome and switch it on. If I go to registration, there we go, the image is staying put. Turn it off and the image moves with the window. So a really nice, simple extension that can be used to fix that annoying problem of the image, invoice image scrolling with the screen. I'm going to put this in the information below this video, so you'll be able to get a zipped version of that unit for invoice pin code. All you need to do is unzip it, save it somewhere, and then as long as you have that developer mode option to load unpacked, you can then load that extension yourself and use it. There we go. So nice and geeky, a bit of code to fix a simple problem. Thanks for watching.